It's good for the kids, right? Because in his State of the Union, the President of the United States of America stood at the rostrum, looked at the country, and bragged that in 1 year he lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record, off of food stamps. He called it a record. He said it the way a man cuts a ribbon at a car dealership. Look at this, beautiful. And yet a new investigation put a real number on what that record actually did to kids across our country. 776,134 kids. That is how many kids have been dropped from SNAP, food assistance, in the 1 year since this administration rewrote the rules. And in states that keep data that break it down by age, children were nearly half of everyone cut across the country. In Arizona alone, more than 200,000 kids lost benefits, a 55% drop. Half of the children in the program gone in just one state. And how did we get here? Trump's law piled on. New work requirements and new paperwork penalties. A kind of maze that punishes a parent just for picking up an extra restaurant shift with unpredictable hours. So, all of these states, terrified of getting dinged over their errors, started bumping working families off the rolls, just so they could keep their numbers clean so they didn't get punished by the Trump regime. The children, they just happened to be standing next to their parents when the trapdoor opened. You know, we have a word for what they're doing to kids in this situation. They're being treated as collateral. Yet Trump, he won't use that word, no. The word he keeps using and the word the White House keeps using is lifted. We lifted them off food stamps, as if these kids floated gently into prosperity. We know they weren't lifted anywhere. They were dropped into hunger and despair, and a lot of them landed right in a line outside of a food bank with their parents, which is an absolutely strange place to find that the people the government just declared too well off to need lunch benefits. You know, the betrayal here, it's in their own words. Because when this bill was being debated, Republicans stood up and swore that it wouldn't touch the vulnerable. The chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, Glenn Thompson, said that it would restore integrity and serve the most vulnerable among us, including children. Including children. He looked at a camera and said that. And ProPublica, for their credit, went back and asked him and others about how many kids have gotten kicked out. They didn't respond. And your agriculture secretary right now, Brooke Rollins, when she was confronted with the numbers, called them good news. Good news that kids are losing their food benefits. And of course, she went on to claim that most of the people that were cut were fraudulent, which, when researchers check against the actual data, found that it's false. When Congressman Jim McGovern pushed Rollins on this, she waved off the count as coming from a group that she didn't even like, even though the numbers came straight from the government's own books. So look, the official position of this government, Trump's government, is that hungry children are good news, and that the reporters, they're liars, and the researchers are liars, and the math is fake.
So do you stand by your comment that kicking people off of food assistance is somehow good news?
So, sir, most of those, based on the numbers, were fraudulent. The 700,000 number of children is not correct.
And the people who study this will tell you that it doesn't even save a dollar in the long run. A child hunger researcher named Mariana Chilton said that cutting kids off now costs far more later, and that early childhood hunger does damage to a developing brain that she compares to an actual brain injury. So instead of balancing a budget, we are mortgaging a generation of kids' brains just so that man can have a bigger number to spout off at a podium. A record. Lifting them out of poverty. And you know what? The mainstream media, they're not really worried about this one. But independent media like us, we are. And we are going to keep saying the numbers because somebody with power called this good news, and we cannot let that stand. So do me a favor, subscribe to us so that a kid in a food bank line becomes more than a statistic that you have to scroll past.